Welcome and bienvenue and welcome to Opus Magnum with Lyte. This is a Zachtronics game, so programming all around. You are given a task, you're given the tools to complete it, and you try to do it in some way that you like. It's not necessarily the fastest, it's not necessarily the cheapest, not necessarily the best, and it's even hard to define the best. But that's what makes it so fun, is because you can see your own personal tastes developing as you solve the problems, and you can see other people's tastes when they solve the problems. And this is even apparent just in the tutorial. Like, you go through the lessons and then you get a simple problem at the end. We need to make stabilized water. And you can see here we've got a cost histogram, a cycles histogram, and an area histogram. They're showing my personal bests, which are all the way down here. And then if you click on a different save file, it shows where it falls in these different graphs. So the Insalinator is super fast. El Garbaggio is, well, garbage. And Hexagon is low area, low cost. But Garbaggio I made because it was fun. I wanted to see how it looked using a particular thing. So we're going to start with the Hexagon because it's the easiest to show how the game works. So we open up our good friend Hexagon. Our goal is to make water bonded to salt. So that's up here in our products. What we're given are a pair of water sources, various arms and tracks to do what we need, and then some glyphs that will transform what we have. This one turns it into salt. This one bonds all sorts of things at once. This bonds a pair. This one splits a pair. You don't have to use everything, but you do have to get the job done. So to do it, we have an arm. This arm takes instructions, which are shown down here. What we're telling it to do is grab a thing, turn 3 times to the left, drop it, and reset. Then we pick up another one, turn it 4 times to the right, and reset. That's it. That's all we do. 3 to the left, 4 to the right, we're done. So let's see how it gets that job done. So it grabs it, drops it, grabs another, turns it into salt, pushes it all the way, and drops it into the goal. So we have a super tiny hexagon that just does the job all on its own. So it's low cost because we use very few elements, and it's low space because it's all compact. You add one to the area for every hexagon that has something go over it. So it doesn't matter if I put something in it. If an atom goes over it, if the arm goes over it, it adds to the area that's used. So this is as compact as you're going to get because you have to bond it, you have to turn it into salt, you have to have a source, you have to have an exit. It's not getting any smaller, and the arm is the cheapest mechanism. The piston costs more. And so this is, mathematically, the cheapest and smallest. But it's not the fastest. So if we head back out here and you look at the hexagon, the cycles are way up here. 60, 70, 80, 85-ish? 94, apparently. So the lines aren't super accurate, but yeah, 94 cycles to get it done. Whereas El Garbaggio, which isn't even all that great, only uses 45. But costs more and uses up more space. So let's take a look at El Garbaggio. So this one uses tracks, because I felt like trying to use tracks. It's not more efficient, but it does look pretty cool. I like it. So let's get this one playing, because all it does is it takes, grabs, moves, resets. Grabs, moves, rotates, and resets. So let's take a look. So we have a nice little production line here that does the same job that our hexagon did. It just does it a lot faster. And so it passes over the calcification to turn it into salt, binds them together, chucks them in the bin. Now, this one isn't optimal in any of the senses, but it's cheaper than the fastest option, and it's faster than the smallest option. And so then we go to the Ensalinator, which uses up a decent amount of area, but is very quick. I'm not certain it's optimal speed-wise, but it's very quick. It's at least in the bottom of the histogram. And then the cost is exorbitant. And you'll see in a moment why. Because it uses all sorts of arms to get the job done. But man, does it get done quick. And that's how fast it takes. 17 cycles. The second one was 45, I think, and the one before that was 97. We shaved 80 cycles off of it. And you can see why. It uses a bunch of arms to grab it as soon as the element is available. And then it brings it down, bonds it, and chucks it in the bin. I don't know if there can be a way of getting this done faster. And if you have a way, feel free to tweet it at me, because this game actually has a feature where that once you beat a level, you can hit record GIF. Don't start the GIF battle. You can actually save a GIF to your desktop and then just drop it in Twitter, Discord, anything. And it'll be a nice animated GIF of your solution showing how this works. And so even just at the end of the tutorial, you can see just how much variation you can get in the possible solutions. Because this one, super fast, but crazy expensive. El Garbaggio, average speed, average cost, average size. Pretty average all around. And Hexagon, well, it's tiny and cheap. It's not fast, but it's effective. So you could take this and multiply it out on a circuit board to get more speed in parallel by doing tons of tiny, cheap circuits at once. Because for the same cost, you'd be able to make 5 of these circuits. And so, is that better? Well, let's see. If you take 94, divide it by 5, you get 18 cycles. So it's almost as good, G for G, with the Ensalinator. The trouble is, then the area would be 35 instead of 7. And so the Ensalinator with 15 area is actually penny-wise better than the Hexagon. And I'd like to actually make a metric for that sort of thing, where we discover the minimum area, the minimum cycles, and the minimum cost, and see how much any given thing is worth, and try to minimize that instead of these 3 independently. And so, since the Hexagon is the cheapest and the smallest, that gives it a huge leg up. But unfortunately, since it's so slow, it might not actually be as good as the Ensalinator. And for all we know, El Garbaggio's actually the best of the bunch. But I don't think it is, because those cycles are still pretty bad. And so I'm going to work on figuring out a nice mathematical expression for that statistic. Like that grouping of the 3, such that when I make projects in the future, I can talk about that instead of making one that's cheapest, one that's fastest, and one that's smallest, separate from one another. Now, such that you can see just how this process works in general, we're going to make a new one. We're not going to give it a name. I always name them after I'm done with them. And then we open it up. And you're given just a blank canvas. So you can drag it around. You can make it as big or as small as you want. Right now, I don't know how to zoom. Like, the mouse wheel doesn't work, control mouse wheel doesn't work, plus and minus don't do anything. I don't know why, but it is what it is. So the goal is to drop salt water into this guy. Now, we can be as boring or as interesting as we want with that. So we can grab one of these. They can reach 4, right? 3. So we can use one of these and drop it in there. And so what do we do prior to that? Well, we can either make it salt prior to this, or we can bind it prior to this. I'm gonna make it salt. Okay, so we've got salt. Prior to it getting salted, we need it bound. So we need a binder. Okay? So what we need is a pair of waters in this binder. Well, how do we get a pair of binders into, or a pair of waters into this binder? Well, we've got 2 waters. So we do something fun, which is all based on your definition of fun, really. And so how do you want it to happen? I personally enjoy the big floppy motions, but I like it nice and compact. So I tend to go back and forth. Do I want it giant? Do I want it tiny? Because right now this is going to use a lot of area, and I kind of want to see how much area I can get away with using. So let's put another giant arm here. And then, let's see. Ooh, I have an interesting idea. What if we have a giant arm here, and then a tinier arm here? And then the same for this guy, where we have a giant arm up to there, and a tiny arm. Wait a minute. We need to make sure they actually point at the same location for the water. Oh, right, this doesn't connect anymore. That's why that wasn't a good idea. So I like the wide swing. So we can worry about making it fast later. And so now we have a ridiculous machine for getting the job done. But it will, in fact, almost get the job done. Because there's an important point that this machine does not take into account. The fact that when you are swinging things around, you can't allow one of these atoms to run into the body of an arm. So unfortunately, we have to move this guy up here. Which I suppose is okay. It's going to lead to just as ridiculous a solution as the other idea. So, number 1 is going to grab from here, drag over, and drop. Number 2 is going to grab, bring, and drop. Number 3 is going to grab, bring, and drop. So number 1, and there are hotkeys for this that you can memorize, and it'll make things go quite a bit faster. So we don't want number 1 going first. We want number 2 and number 3 to grab. Number 2 is going to the left, number 3 is going to the right, and then they're going to reset and do it all over again. Then number 1 is going to grab the moment they drop it. It's going to rotate to the right twice, and then drop. Now, you'll notice that it adds an arrow for the reset that tells it how long it'll take to reset, but it also adds this little white bit here telling you that's how long a cycle is. And a cycle is the length of the longest thing that needs to be done. So grab, turn, turn, reset, turn, turn. So even though this only needs grab, turn, drop, turn, reset, since we have one that's length 6, they're all length 6. And so now we've got ourselves an absolutely ridiculous machine that gets the job done. The cost is exorbitant. The area is monumental. But the cycles are pretty quick. I mean, faster than average, slower than fastest, but it's an interesting little machine. And so we can rename this one. What do we call this one? We call this one Paul Bunyan. Big arms. And you can make as many of these as you want. There is probably a limit, but you can do whatever you really enjoy doing. And so we can make a thing where it just keeps passing stuff down the line a long, long way. So we just need to come up with an easy, standard way of making it work. And just pass down the line. And so it makes you wonder, well, is there an easy way to make this happen? Well, the easiest way to make anything pass down the line is with arms. The only difficulty with arms is the fact that it leads to twisting motions. And so if you have an arm here for going into the exit, we would have the things here. And so to get them there, you would use an arm here, which would have them here. And so you'd have an arm here. And so on down the line. And so you would be able to pass it a long, long way. And right now, I just want to see how many can it handle? Because it can probably handle all of them in the world. Just keep adding them more and more and more and more and more and more. And then just at the beginning, you solve it, and then you pass it onto the conveyor belt. So let's see if it can handle 20. Pretty sure it can handle 20. And we could make it wider if we wanted, or more narrow. Well, probably not more narrow because we need it to be... Oh, we made too many. Let's do 25. And right now, I'm also testing out the gift creation function. Okay, so we're going to make this where we do the joining. We'll drop in a water from there. And then we'll drop in the salt. Wait, which side does the salt need to be on? Salt needs to be on top. So we put the water here, we put the salt on the bottom. Or water on the bottom, salt on the top. We start 26 on it. And so we grab, right, drop. And then for 27, we grab, left, drop. And then it's just a matter of everything else needs to be timed appropriately from there. So 25 starts off to the right. Well, we want it to be one to the right of there. And then grab, left, reset. Let's check to see that that does what we think. Good. So that's going to do what we expect it to do. Now the question then becomes, do we go diagonally from there, or do we just make a nice, simple everything along here route? And so, pretty sure this should get the job done for those. Now, we could probably pass it down the line faster, except we can't, because it takes this 6 cycle to make the thing. So everything's going to work in a 6 cycle. I don't currently know how to copy and paste across tracks, so you do need to actually write it in. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move everybody to the left such that they're in the grabbing position instead of the dropping position, which will save us a lot of instructions. And this is the sort of thing that you think about when building your machines, is saving yourself hassle, because in the end, the product will be the same. But if you save yourself some programming hassle, it'll make it easier to think about in the long run. And so now we've got ourselves a nice little centipede. And all we do is copy these instructions back and forth all the way up. And it should, in theory, just work. So it's quite an interesting game and gives you a lot of freedom as to how to make your solutions, what you think is good about your solutions, and gives you reasons to check out other people's solutions, even if you haven't solved that problem yet. Because sure, you can see what they did, but it might not fit your style, and you'll want to do it a different way. And solving these problems is often trivial. It's just optimizing them in your particular idiom that really takes time and effort. And if you don't have a particular idiom, well, this is the sort of game that can start you noticing that maybe you do. Okay, so let's see whether or not it works. And so it just keeps passing down the line, passing down the line, passing down the line. And there it goes. Drops them right on in. And there we go. Way too many cycles, way too much area, way too much cost. But it's pretty cool. And then you just hit record GIF. It zoomed all the way out and shows you the whole thing. And so if I were to post that, you would be able to see the entirety of the solution caterpillaring its way down the line. It's not efficient, it's not particularly effective, but it is a thing you can do, and that's the beauty of these sorts of sandbox puzzle games. You can make it do whatever you like. But thank you for sticking around to the end. I do plan on making more episodes once I've got my metric figured out, and I will likely do a lot of the design work on streams. So if you like to see it happening, stop by my streams. They tend to be on 6:30 Monday, Wednesday, and or Friday. Never know which of the three I'll be able to do. And that's 6:30 Eastern, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. But thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next episode of Opus Magnum with Lyte.